Which grew from Hello everyone. Okay. My name is Abby Hodson from Sacred Earth Funerals. Unfortunately, Warwick has come down with the flu and was unable to make it today on short notice. We wish you a speedy recovery, Warwick. So welcome today here to celebrate and honour Graham's life and the gifts he has given us with his presence for 91 years. Sadly, I did not have the pleasure of meeting Graham, but I've learned a great deal about him from his daughter Adele, and it is clear that he was an extraordinary man. We would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this country and pay our respects to elders here past and present. Graham's family would also like to acknowledge the various country he has lived and worked on throughout his life. Taribalang, Banjalang, Jajarang, Darkinyang, Nai Tahu, Wa'aitaha country, Wadi Wadi, Guringai country, Nanyatjara country, Madu country, Kabi country, and now back to rest in Banjalang country. We will now sing the hymn, It Is Well With My Soul.
When peace like a river attendeth thy way, when sorrow
How beautiful. I'm sure Graham is very happy with that. It's gorgeous. We will now hear the poem Pungal Pungal Piriya, read by Adele.
This is one of Dad's poems. We're going to share a few of them with you today. But before I just start reading that, I'd just like to acknowledge some of the people that have travelled a long way, and I just want to thank you from my heart for coming. Dave and Wendy, you've come a long way from Guyra. You're long-time friends of Dad's. Thank you. Sharon and Mark, you go way back. I think you go back the longest, Mark, to Bishop Dale. I'm not sure, but among our friends, yes, thank you for coming today. And Jeff, you've come from Gympie. You've been like a son to Mum and Dad for many, many years. They loved you like a son. Thank you. Thank you. Who else has come a long way? Uncle Stan and Auntie Karen. You're the two representatives from Mum's side of the family today. We're grieving that she couldn't be here with us, but it was the best decision for her in the end. But she did attend the memorial that we had in Sydney, and she's okay. But thank you for being there to represent her family, Uncle Stan, and coming such a long way from Melbourne. Really, we really appreciate it. Uncle Orton, I'm so glad you're here. So glad. And there's more that have travelled from Queensland. And Dennis, you go way back to Karoi days when Dad was a minister up there. How many years? 30, 40? Yeah, long-time heart friend of Dad's. Thank you so much. Dennis flew in from overseas last night, so he could be here. So just want to thank you all. Oh, and Kath, you've come from Widgie. I think you're the only one from Widgie. It's really important that we have someone here from Widgie. Thank you so much for being here. Because Mum and Dad lived at Widgie for I think more than 30 years. Yeah. So thank you. And anyone else I've missed that has come a long way, we're so thankful that you're here. Here's the poem. Pungal Pungal Piriya. I sat down on the red sand with the old men and greeted the ones I knew. The dogs moved uneasily into new positions where they could watch me from a safer distance. No colonial wallipella could ever get near enough to a camp dog to touch it or stroke it, even though I sometimes fed them outdated meat from the freezer. The old desert men were gathered under the talk tree outside the store this afternoon, just sitting in a circle, just talking. They called me over, so I sat with them and listened. One very old man was there I had not seen before. He looked very frail and wore the red headband. I guess he'd come on a mission of some importance to the Nunyatjara mob. My kota was there too, Henry Giles, no doubt named after Giles, the great explorer of Central Australia in 1784. I suspected he had the blood of Charles in his veins, as his appearance was different to the other tribal men. I climbed by the tumbling stream at the place of swirling wind, Pungal Pungal Piriya, home of the desert wind. Black men in red headbands no doubt thought it strange that I should wish to climb high in the Peterman Range. But they gave me their permission and told me where to go, to follow the mountain gorge above the lower pool and up to the fall where the water floated down from a towering red rock wall, 100 feet or more into a clear green pool. Who would swim with Wanumpi at his home in a magic pool? Only a crazy Englishman in the midday sun like a fool. So I glide through cool green depths in a state of sheer delight, staggered by the brilliance of multicoloured light, desert red and orange, shadow black and lightning white, listening to water tumbling from a massive height. But somehow something wasn't feeling quite right. I knew few wandering white men had ever ventured here. Even the Nunyatjara old men spoke of Pungal Piriya with a hint of fear. Kumina, they spoke softly. Yes, you can go, but be careful of that water snake down in his cave below. Don't stir up Wanumpi. Treat him with respect. If you don't and he drags you down, well, what could you expect? I swam across the pool to the fall and the flying spray where the sun shone into the gorge in the middle of the day. And a rainbow formed around me in that rainbow serpent's home, and a sudden terror seized me, which I cannot explain. So I'm out of there like a jet boat, thrashing the water to foam, doing my own poor version of the Great Australian Crawl. If Ranumpi gets upset, I've got no protection at all. And I'm remembering those old men, every face held that mysterious grin. When they warned me about Mernumpi, they knew the strife I'd be in. And I sat on the pure white sand and struggled to get some air and talked to myself with a smile. There was no one else to talk to for nearly 100 miles. Graham, you crazy Wallypella, no need to be afraid. It's just a mythical legend these people dreamed up and made. You're a civilised man out here doing a job, but I think you've been here long enough with this Nunyat mob. Time to go back home and see some white faces again, catch a few fish on the Queensland beach and listen to the pouring rain. You've met the rainbow serpent. She didn't drag you down, but I'll never forget this amazing place and the day I didn't drown.
How wonderful. Transported there, really. It's so descriptive. The following is a poem called The Dream That's Over. The dream is over now and I am free, a master of the art of life, my destiny. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I'll have no truck with fate. The purpose of the sojourn here is to create. I seek these slender threads that guide, for what is man but part of God? And what his function here but to forgive? If I should hate my brother, then my hate but falls on me. I then will live the truest love, a prisoner unbound and ever free, and live within the mystic cycle of divine dichotomy, ever free, yet ever bound by slender threads of gold that hold me all around, lest I should fall the second time and eat forbidden fruit from yet another tree. I hear the call, now truth is home to me. I am so gladly home, yet travelling still. A thick grey mist is slowly rising from the mountain peaks around, the endless void to fill. And high above, a brilliant light is painting colours on the ground. Somewhere in that golden light, far above my soul, a waterfall is floating from a towering mountain wall. What force its plunge can stay? But rocks below are dry. The valley wind has blown the fall to fine spun mist and whirled it all away. The dream is over now, all men are free. The heavy chains have turned to mist, the bars lean crazily. The karmic spider's web can't hold a mote of dust. The blazing fires of hell are cold. Why don't you stroll away with me? The streets are paved with gold. Eternity is free. Esther will now come up and read the poem Ode to a Dingo.
Graham had the opportunity to reflect on a couple of experiences with dingoes, and he tells us the story here with humour, a little reverence and a lesson learned. Lithe and lovely, desert dingo, tell me why you lie and spared my life that night I slept on orange-coloured sand out in the Nunyat people's land. Travelling alone late at night, I blew a tyre and it wrapped around the axle tight. So I left the job till morning light, threw down a swag and slept like the dead in the lee of a sandhill all orange and red. And you silently came a-stalking me at the fatal hour of 3:30. And I had no dog to waken me. When daylight came, I found your track. You had come very close, but you didn't attack. You threw back your head and howled instead, a scream of a howl to awaken the dead, an awesome sound, full decibel. I woke and it seemed like I wakened in hell. No sheet, no blanket to cover my throat, not even a coat. One crunch of your massive, powerful jaws, and my blood as red as yours, would have stained the orange-coloured sand out in the sandhill people's land, out of this world, heart-stopping fright at the darkest hour of the night, dark night, and my fear was 10 on a scale of 10. Tell me why you spared me then. Son of man, you have no tribal memory that reaches back as far as mine. You walk a different track, you have a different mind. You were a new boy, 17, and never ever had you ever seen one of our kind. There was no reference point that you could find to recognise our queen. You raced on wheels along a dead flat stretch of beach south of the river called Colin. You had your fishing rod and frying pan. The wind was gusting from the south and very strong. You fairly flew along. And there you saw her lying on the sand, queen of the Colin River Band. She was looking north with her back to the roaring gale, and you were travelling in full sail. It was a place where men on bikes had never come before. She had not fears, and in her ears were the surf and the wind's loud roar. Back then, it was a lonely point of land. She didn't hear the almost silent hum of speeding tyres on firm packed sand. You saw your chance to have a bit of fun, to terrify that lovely dingo mum. You waited till your wheel was level with her tail, and then you screamed a mighty yell and laughed to see that dingo run. You didn't kill, you had no gun, but how you howled with mirth to see that dingo run. You thought it real good fun. You didn't treat this dingo queen with due respect. You failed to see the beauty in her form, nor knew her heart was true and warm. You screamed and laughed and raced off on your way. You didn't know that at some future day you'd have to pay. The Sandhill people pay their debts. The law of every wandering nomad is so sure of its eventual outcome, you can lay bets. I found you lying on the sand. I didn't want you dead. I screamed and howled 2 metres from your head and laughed uproariously to smell your terror as you woke. It was my turn to play a joke. I laughed to see you scramble for the truck. So just remember not to push your luck. Maybe from now on you'll be a better bloke. He who laughs last. You struggled in and slammed the door. You had me rolling around the floor.
Karen, would you like to read a poem from your dad?
Which one?
Anyone?
Oh.
We didn't have one set. It was just an offer.
Yeah.
That's fine. So we'll now hear Graham's life story told by Adele and Karen.
So it's hard to put 91 years in a few pages. So I thank you for your patience. We've done our best. There's lots and lots and lots of stories we didn't tell. But we think we needed to tell this part. Graham COOMBS was born in midsummer in England in the month the cuckoo sings to Gladys and Eric in a house called Cross Keys in Heightington Village, Worcestershire. He was the eldest of 5 brothers, Lawton, Leon, Rennie, Jotham, and one precious sister, Esther. It was 1934, a depression in between the world wars, and an orange was so rare it was an absolute treat. The little family moved to the Riddings, then the Sturt as more boys were born, a 5-storey old monastery with a big cherry orchard. Eric worked as a truck driver delivering timber props to mines, and Gladys often went with him. Her mother Gran cared for the children, helped by Auntie Maud. Dinner was a slice of bread with dripping and homemade jam if they had any from berries in the hedges or apples or cherries from the trees. They kept a pig and salted it to last for months. As a child, Dad loved to roam the countryside, exploring and finding food. Usually with Lawton, they were always good mates. Riding their horses, Silver and Brownie, hunting rabbits, fishing in Dick Brook and picking cherries were his favourite pastimes. Dad went to Hartlebury Grammar School where discipline was handed out in punishment from the senior students. He enjoyed playing soccer and he did well in art. There were a few holiday trips to the beach in Wales, but Dad couldn't believe his eyes when the family arrived in Bundaberg and he saw the Aussie beaches. They came on the ship Asturias in 1950 to a sugarcane farm in Queensland when Dad was 16. The land of oranges and sunshine, they were told. They left nearly everything behind, but they brought Auntie Maud, who didn't have a ticket but came as a stowaway. Dad and his brother Lawton played table tennis on the ship for most of the voyage, even when the waves were 60 foot high and the ship was tipped up like that. They spent many blissful hours riding their bikes along the beach to find good fishing spots around Bundaberg and bringing home their catch. Dad studied chemistry at night school and got a job in the lab in the sugarcane plant in Bundaberg. He helped his father cut and burn the cane, and he grew a field of big sweet pineapples. They were huge, about 3 or 4 kilos, and smoko time was a pineapple shed between them all. When they first got to the farm, Uncle Wally and all the men laughed at Dad. Uncle Wally and his family were already there in Bundaberg. When they saw how skinny Dad was, they thought, how's this guy going to cope with cutting cane? But they put the cane knife in his hand and he worked the row, and when he got to the end, he was 35 metres ahead of everyone else. They took a whole hour to catch up with him. He knew how to work hard, said Uncle Leon. He'd come back at the end of the day black from head to foot from cutting the cane. Dad loaded the sugar cane by hand into the truck, and he and Pop hand dug a well 60 foot down to find water for the farm, but they didn't find any. The water diviner had never got it wrong before, but he did that time. Dad joined the Army Reserve and travelled by train to the camps. It was around this time the family met Bill Otto, a Seventh-day Adventist who studied the Bible with them. Gladys was on a big search for the truth. The whole family got baptised in the Colan River at Smith's Crossing, including Gran and Auntie Maud. Dad was impressed to become a church minister, and he hitchhiked to Avondale College to study for the ministry. He was very interested in health, and he got a job in the sanitarium factory just near the college. He kept a carpet python in a hot water cupboard near his room and fed it mice from the lab. He saw the aurora one night walking home from night shift. He really loved the gospel as taught by his teacher, Des Ford. In the college library in 1958, Dad met a sparkling, brown-eyed, dark-haired beauty and was smitten. They were looking up a book by Henry David Thoreau about living in the wild, and they both shared a love of these things. Mum was 20, the eldest of 11 children, who grew up in Diamond Creek, a small farm just outside Melbourne. She had left school to work in a sewing factory and a postie on her bike and a nurse aide in a nursing home in Fitzroy. She was determined to complete her schooling and saved hard to go to college for her leaving. The rest of Dad's story is a love story with quite a few adventures thrown in. They looked at each other for a year. Some of the other young ladies liked Dad, so Mum kept quiet. She was nervous someone else might end up with Dad, so she kept her desires in her heart. College students weren't allowed to get near each other in those days except to sit together one meal a week on Friday nights called ticket teas. They had a ticket tea toward the end of that year and somehow managed, and I don't know the story, to get on the same canvassing team to sell books over the summer. The following year they had many Friday night ticket teas and even tried to line up so they could sit together at other meal times too. In the August of 1959 they sat together on the lawn outside the chapel. The pink camellias were blooming and Dad gave one to Mum and asked her to marry him. And we still celebrate Pink Camellia Day in our family, the day Dad asked Mum to marry him. He wanted to get married straight after graduation, but Mum wanted to work for a year first and save money. Dad said, "You don't want me to go out on my own, do you?" So Mum said, "Well, give me 2 weeks." She needed to sew her dress as well as her sister's bridesmaids' dresses. She sewed day and night for 2 weeks. Then they married in Preston Church near Melbourne on the 6th of December 1960. They went on a honeymoon to Wilson's Promontory, and this is mad. They were in a wee caravan that Mum's father lent them. Only Uncle Stan knows how that could happen. It had 2 single beds, one each end. They dragged the mattresses onto the floor somehow in the middle so they could cuddle up. They pulled the caravan behind their little VW Beetle, and gosh, there were some hairy times then. It was a hot summer, and on the way back they had a bit of a disagreement. Mum threw some water over Dad, and he threw some back at her. Next thing they were laughing and throwing water at each other for sheer fun. Their first home was in Murwillumbah, where Dad got a job as a church minister. Mum helped a lot with his ministry and kept house. They moved to Tenterfield, where they lived when their first babe, Adele, was born. Dad took Mum to the Sand in Sydney for the birth, but it was late and he was called by his boss back to set up the big church camp, which was far more important. So he missed it, and Mum never let him forget that. Dad visited people in Deepwater, Purtle Hill and Inverell. You'll appreciate this, Dave and Wendy. In the middle of the winter, when the car radiator sometimes froze solid, coming home late at night after Bible studies, and he had to go to farmhouses for warm water to thaw it out to drive home. Dad nearly lost Mum when she had an ectopic pregnancy there in Tenterfield, and Mum also had to run up the road to the doctor when her first babe stopped breathing. That was me. They moved to St Arnaud, a rural town in Victoria, where they had Kieran and Brenton, 2 babies born just 19 months apart. A block of ice in front of the fan was their air conditioning. Mum hired a house girl to help with all the work. Karen, do you want to come and help me with the next bit?
There, I forgot my reading glasses, would you believe? It's bad. In 1970, they were asked to go out to the Cook Islands, so they packed up and flew out to live and work in Rarotonga and Aitutaki. Kieran was only 2, Brenton still a baby, and Dad quickly learned Cook Island Maori and preached at the church in the language. He also worked in the banana plantation at the mission. They loved the music of the Polynesian culture and were dearly loved by the islanders. They soon worked out that Dad was a good fisherman and sent him out to catch the fish for the umakais. Dad hooked up a radio antenna to some coconut trees. Oh, thanks, but I've got a different prescription. It's all right. To catch the fish for the umakai, sorry about that, catch the news. Dad hooked up a radio antenna to catch the news about Apollo 11 landing on the moon. He travelled out to visit the remote island of Mulki, where the hurricane struck the islands and stopped boat travel for about 5 weeks. Mum boarded up the windows and drove around the island to the main town with the 3 kids in the back of the wee mini miner during the hurricane to try and get the news of the weather. Dad was all right. He had sent her a message that he would be okay. One fine day, Dad made a raft out of plywood and took the family out on the lagoon for a paddle. The wind came up and Dad held up a beach umbrella for a sail and helped him to get back home. The wind took him overboard, but we made it back. I think I remember Mum saying she saw a shark 200 metres down in the passageway that we were going over. Dad loved adventures like this and with the family. It's like fearless, sort of unbelievable fearlessness. Trips to Fiji, Samoa, Tonga and missions were meeting, completed by their South Pacific adventure when they travelled on the cruise line at Oriana back to Sydney for a brief holiday before heading to South New Zealand for the next adventure. They set up home in Christchurch for a year, then Greymouth and the wild west coast for 3 years of mostly rain before returning to Christchurch. During these years, Dad brought armloads of fresh food into the kitchen from his garden. There was the sweetest corn, strawberries, tomatoes, even in the cold months, and literally trailer loads of broad beans that we all had to shell. Back at Christchurch, Dad and Mum purchased their first home with a walnut tree in the backyard where Dad built us a cubby house. They found real community in the Bishopdale Church where the kids went to Pathfinder camps and discovered skiing. There were so many adventures in the mountains and the rivers, walking the Milford, Rootburn, Hollyford and Abel Tasman tracks and many others. Mum tried skiing but she didn't really like it, but she knitted us warm jumpers and beanies and cooked for many Pathfinder camps. Dad helped run these camps, assisted by the youth leader Eric White. He told nature stories to the kids and learnt to ski at the age of 45. He could be heard quoting Tennyson at the top of the mountain. He clasps the crag with crooked hands, close to the sun in lonely lands. He watches from his mountain walls and then like a thunderbolt he falls. That was Dad on the mountain, my goodness. Before plunging down on his long skinny legs and his long skinny skis. Many people appreciated Dad's ministry during these years. He held their hands and prayed with people in hospital, nursing homes. He was asked to take weddings and the young and old enjoyed his stories. He was quite the storyteller. The churches Dad cared for were bursting at the seams. When Adele left home for college, the family moved back to Australia a year later. Dad took a job in Warwick, Queensland. Mum enjoyed being nearer to her mother for a little while, but Dad wasn't appreciated so much in his work back in Australia as the church was going through a difficult period of upheaval after Des Ford was sacked. So Dad bought a boat. We called it Skiwee to make up for the mountains that we missed, and we went water skiing on Leslie Dam. Encouraged freestyle adventures down the Condamine River in a canoe. Ski trips back to New Zealand became our therapy in winter. He skied the Tasman Glacier and Adele and granddaughter Harmony when he was 75. Yeah. I think Dad had his last ski at the age of 79. I think it was 82. He asked us to take him when he could be free, like not pay for a ticket, over 80. Yeah. 3 years later, the family moved to Gympie, where Dad carried out his last post at Gympie and Koroi churches. Dad's garden became his retreat during a significant burnout. When Karen and Brenton left home, Dad found a beautiful property at Widgie on 35 acres along a rainforest creek. This was their Walden. They called it Diamond Brook, a blend of both the beloved creeks that they had played in their childhoods. After a year of bush showers and bandicoots who learned to open the fridge, really, there was a call from an old friend in New Zealand, John Hackwell. It was an invitation to go to Chukula Aboriginal community in the West Australian desert. What shall we do? Dad asked Mum. We're mad if we do and we're mad if we don't, said Mum, and so off they went. This time, instead of Mum supporting Dad's work, Dad supported Mum as she managed the store, bringing in fresh fruit and veg, good bread, healthy choices for the desert families and kids who'd been eating white bread, processed meat and ice cream, supplemented by goanna and honey ants. Dad grew fresh veggies in the community gardens and helped out with all sorts of jobs in the desert community. He was much loved by the Nunanjara people, and they gave him a skin name as well and brought him handmade tools and many desert paintings. Dad fell in love with the desert and its vivid colours and was moved to paint his own pictures after this. While they were away, a fire on the neighbouring farm got out of control and became a raging bushfire which burnt nearly everything they owned in Widgie. It was a big loss, but Mum and Dad didn't get stuck into grief or bitterness. They returned. They had a humble cedar cottage built with a big veranda. Granddaughters arrived in quick succession, 4 in all, and this added much beauty, fun and love to their empty nest. They planted trees and worked on stone paths and garden edges together, and Dad hand-mixed hundreds of wheelbarrows of concrete. They made a beautiful garden together, but their adventures were not over. They took another posting to Mantamaru, back in Nurunjara land, for another 18 months. So many stories and poems came from these experiences. Dad returned home to paint, garden and write poetry, much poetry. The desert had given Dad new life and inspiration. We're still trying to keep up with all his poems and we'll share some with everyone today. Dad also taught himself to play the Irish tin whistle and the mouth organ and played many tunes to a morning in Widgie. Neighbours listened to those tunes echoing around the hills and smiled. So did Mum. She said, "What more could we want? Dad brings me roses and plays me music," and she always felt very blessed by these gifts from Dad. Mum and Dad enjoyed 30 years of life in Widgie. They visited friends and neighbours, taking Mum's homemade scones, music, poetry, stories and encouragement during difficult times. Dad read widely and was a seeker of wisdom and many writers and thinkers. He's matured to a full-blown mystic who would enthusiastically share with anyone who would listen, and some of you who wouldn't. Sorry, I couldn't resist that line in there. You might have been one of those. Dad was taking over the rose garden that Mum had designed, a big, beautiful heart shape, and would bring her fresh cut roses every day. He had a few more adventures to Mardu country in WA, the Tiwi Islands with John Hackwell, to the Himalayas with Brenton. Mum and Dad took a tour of the Whitsunday Islands together, and North New Zealand, I believe, and Norfolk Island. Mum had a near-death experience in 2020 which really shook Dad, but not Mum. She was determined to live and care for her family, and she did, even though several falls over the next few years did leave her shaken. When Mum had a fall in 2024, it was a minor stroke and it changed and challenged her needs for support, even though it conflicted greatly with their independence and their enjoyment of life. Dad made a decision quickly to sell the home to accompany Mum to care. He refused to leave her side. He continued.
We were amazed how Dad continued to give Mum his strength, even when he had none left for himself. She misses him dearly, but it's very painful to her to be reminded that he died, but she knows, her heart knows. Dad's life was given in true service to his beloved wife, the love of his life, doing his best to protect and care for family, sharing stories, music and poetry with so many people. He was always there like a mountain, really, to lend his strength, support and advice in our lives, and yet he always let us choose our own directions, and we really honour him for this today. He was a great storyteller, gathering the gifts from all his incredibly courageous adventures to share with family and friends and so many others. He made the world a very richer place with his stories and his presence and his love of adventures, and that his children and grandchildren continue today, and I hope great-grandchildren. Thank you so much, Dad. Now you're off on your next adventure. We look forward to hearing the stories.
An extraordinary man, an extraordinary life. We'll now watch some pictures of Graham's life.
across a mountain high. Two city cowboys reaching for the sky. Can't quite believe the things they see. Take much delight in just being free as they come to rockin' round the bend. One man is turning, saying to his friend, "Say man, you're moving way too fast. Just take it easy. We'll make it last. 5,000 feet, but all at sea. Knowing this thing has got the best of me. Can't quite control the way I go. Once more I take time to kiss the snow. I trail through the sky. Watch me sail, watch me fly, and I sing as I run and fly. Watch a little bird fly. Watch a little bird
We would love to hear from anyone who has a story or memory to share of Graham now.
I have got my reading glasses again, but don't worry, I have prescription ones, so no general ones can't do it. That's what I need. Okay, so this is I'm really happy to do this for my Uncle Leon, who was at the memorial in Sydney. He literally flew from Christchurch for the day, and he had it in his pocket, but he didn't tell me, and I wish he had, but I said I'll read it at this one. So this is from Uncle Leon, Dad's second next brother after Lawton. Shirley and I are sorry not to be there in person today. I'll miss the testimony of you kids. We're here to say goodbye to my brother Graham, and this is a bit hard because he's the first of the COOMBS clan to go. Now, as you know, our family was all spread out, and Graham has never left, and that Graham was never a buddy brother, but we were close. Whenever we met, we continued where we left off. It feels impossible to stand here and capture all of a lifetime. Graham was more than a brother and a father and an uncle and a grandfather. He's a kind, enduring presence in all our lives. And then he's got a heading, a free thinker and a philosopher. If you knew Graham, you knew he lived his life entirely on his terms. He was a philosopher and a poet, an artist and a free thinker. He was intelligent, always exploring the deep questions that many are too busy to ask. Graham had a deep romantic nature, but not in the traditional sense, in his appreciation for beauty, principle and quiet truth of this world. He was a man of firm principle, almost ascetic in his convictions, choosing a simple life wherever he had the choice that allowed him space to think and create. He was gentle soul, and yet he was an absolute force of character. He was a man of quiet conviction, enthusiastic, always, and each time we met there would be a new ground to cover and new ideas that he had unearthed and had to be shared. Next heading, memories of quiet kindness. The stories we share of Graham often highlight his selfless generosity. I remember the incredible kindness he showed when he loaned us his only car for 2 weeks for our honeymoon. To this day, I'll still wonder how on earth what he did for transport, but that was Graham. He gave without thought of himself. That act of quiet support is a memory I'll always cherish. Graham seldom called on the phone. His communication was always written, and there was not one-page catch-ups in the normal sense. They were 6 to 10-page epistles. He deeply appreciated solitude, and for those of us who knew his home, often lovingly nicknamed the Garden of Eden, that often greeted us with the smell of the sound of the mouth organ wafting up from his quiet spot in the bush. That sound was a soundtrack to his peace, a beautiful expression of a man content in his own company, connecting with the natural world. But the gentleness we knew in him was forged by hard work. I often think back to our childhood in Bundaberg, watched his daily homecoming of Dad and Graham, black from head to toe from cutting and loading the burnt sugar cane. He knew the value of hard work, honest labour, and he carried his strength throughout his life. And the last heading, his enduring light. Grief is the last act of love we can offer those who we cherished. If you are feeling heavy today, please know that the weight you are carrying is simply the measure of your love that you had for him. Though we feel this absence, Graham's spirit is not truly gone. It lives on in the poetry we've read, in the principal stands we take, in the quiet appreciation for nature that he taught us all. To Graham, my dear brother, you are an original, a unique spirit and a true gift. We will love you and miss you every single day. But as I said in our last phone call, thanks Adele for hooking that up, our best days are yet ahead. The preacher often uses the words in sure and certain hope, but I prefer the less confusing expression, it's a certainty. And as we will have time then, you and me, to fill in the blank spots of our lives, without the curse manifested in the cancer and the pesky sprained ankle that you incurred in the soccer days. Until then.
He was a unique character, very unique character. And I'm just wondering today, he was very intuitive too. The first time I met Graham, it was on the ski camp that I was invited to by my sister. And with his ski style, I don't know if it was a triple chair or a quad chair at the time, but only 2 people ended up getting on. And I ended up with him a few times on the chairlift, and all he could talk about was his younger daughter in London. And a couple of years later, he married us, so I just wonder if he knew something I didn't. Anyway, the reason more than that I'm up here at the moment is because my youngest daughter's in Greece and couldn't be here because she's overstayed a visa and she won't be able to get back in if she leaves. A bit of Graham in her, I think. But she's left him a bit of a message. I hope this can pick it up here.
Was an extraordinary man. All at once a poet, a mystic, a Seventh-day Adventist pastor, a preacher, reader, farmer, grower of flowers, lover of birds, mist, mountains, a spider-legged dancer, an entrancing storyteller. Most of my early memories of Grandpa
Sorry.
Our grandpa was an extraordinary man.
Oh, sorry.
Intervention and sweet corn and that marked the red earth of Chukula. Someone's beat up and pa involved sitting at the cotton doily covered round.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on tonight.
A bunch of fresh cut roses from the garden and entrancing sight. Our grandpa was an extraordinary man.
Come on.
Most of my early memories of Grandpa involve sitting at the cotton doily covered round dining table, a bunch of fresh cut roses from the garden in the middle, remnants of some hearty veggie fare, and all of us squeezed around the table listening to his tales. Of beings in the stars, people with spears and skin black as night,
the red earth of Jugala, someone's beat up car, a python, a fish as big as a canoe, John, and other John, paintings worth tens of thousands, the seven sisters, skulls made of crystal, buried gold out there in the red dirt that only few know where. Great floods will all be ruined, said Hanrahan. Stonehenge, mandalas in fields of wheat, tomatoes that never die, the great circles and spirals of cosmic intervention, and sweet corn, and that marvellous thing that Beverly said the other day. Often my eyes would glaze over or focus on the porcelain butterflies in the glass cabinet behind Dad's head, or share a smirk with my sister or an eye roll, while Grandpa's stories beat the rhythm of the witchy night, cicadas chorusing through open windows. Alex and I would go to sleep in Grandpa's study, Alex on the wrought iron single and me on the pull-out trundle below, Nana's hand-sewn sheets covering both. We would dream among his latest paintings and folders of poetry, his iconic hand wonkily and determinedly covering pages and pages, graceful birds and sacred waterholes stacked behind each other against the walls. Days spent on the veranda with mountains of fruit, sweet pineapple and pawpaw, pots of French Earl Grey, Nana's scones, Grandpa with accounts of his terrible night's sleep, his vivid dreams, his 2 a.m. toast with thick slatherings of butter. Always many walks in the garden, handfuls of butter beans, pumpkins, sweet potatoes. A look down the creek, a cool dip, a song on the tin whistle down at the dam, a few more stories of the neighbours, the water lilies, the horses next door, the caravan of old, the great fire, Nana's wedding dress, the china cups that were burnt and the few that remained. How sugar is destroying our DNA, the dingoes at Rainbow Beach, the dolphins in the waves at sunset, the latest kindness from the lady at the health food shop and how they danced together after he'd paid for his box, the meaningful collisions of life. Such was the nature of Graham Coombs, a man filled with emotion and memories and tales of all kinds, that seemed to be writing the legacy of our family as we lived it. He had a way of determining the mood of the room, perhaps it was a strong gravitational force. Sometimes there was doom in the skies and evil in the world and too much sugar in the biscuits and chemicals in the food that would ruin us all. Or he was a box of birds. There would be great joy in the air and revelation for life, peace, appreciation for the smell of rain and abundance. Spectrums of feeling expressed with biblical verve in all directions. Usually after 14 hours in the car up from Sydney, we would arrive at midnight. Nana and Gopal would both come out of the bedroom to give us hugs, and Gopal would often say, "I've been in an awful state, but having you all arrive has turned me around completely. Oh, it's marvellous to see you all." Graham Gopal Coombs lives within me now, and in the stars and the wind and the earth beneath our feet and the seas that stretch out to forever. His gypsy spirit, his highs and lows, his recognition of miracles, his joy for birds, his love for growing food, his particular tastes and style, his collection of wonderful shirts, his spider-legged dancing and his intrigue into the fabric and essence of life, the search for what can never be known, what we live to find out. Go well, Gopal, on your passage into the beyond. We will keep the candle lit for you.
Thank you.
I've got a few more to share. That was absolutely gorgeous. Please tell Jade, you'll probably talk to her before I do, that was really, really, really special. So I've got a few messages from folk in New Zealand who couldn't be here and I really want to share them. This one is from David Rogers, who is one of Dad's colleagues. Still worked for many years, doing this kind of work, funeral work, farewell work, for many, many years, and now I think he's retired. He says of Dad, he was a thoroughly decent man. I always enjoyed his company, whether fishing in the South Island country or spending a few days at Uluru in the company of our mutual friend, John. I remember a great shared journey in a wagon being pulled along by 6 draft horses in a marvellous location near the Rangitata River. That was with me, and I loved that. Graham never stopped searching for meaning in life. He possessed a creative and a great spirit and was a fascinating conversationalist. What a storyteller, and was so forgiving of those who had anything to do with making life difficult for him. And that is so true. I know he always loved and appreciated his loyal wife Bev and a father who was so proud of his children. Kind regards and best wishes from David. And then there's also a few more that are important to mention here. My school friend Bev. So this goes back Greymouth days, so 50 years ago. Adele, I'm deeply sorry to hear of your dad's passing. He was a man among men, a good friend to fellow humanity. I won't join you for the service, but I shall be thinking of you all. It was a privilege and a pleasure to be a passing moment in his life, and I shall hold you all in my heart space, ever. And then there's Sol and Eddie, very dear friends of Dad. He used to talk to them and talk to them and talk to them, and they used to listen and listen and listen. And they're in Denmark now. Sol says, my heart goes out to you all and your family. Graham was a remarkable man, and I know how deeply he was loved. May you find comfort in the beautiful memories you share together. We have so many memories and fond times with Graham. Lots of love to you all. And Eddie, who has actually just farewelled his father in the UK, he says, I'm so sorry to hear Graham's gone. He was a true shining light in this world and the most beautiful soul. I have such fond memories of him. I know he'll be sorely missed. So I think that's all that I had to share.
And I have one more, sorry. No, this is really typical of Graham, all right? It sometimes kept coming. This was very specific, so specific that those of you who knew him well knew he read this book all the time, A Course in Miracles. And literally, I show you, for my funeral service. Okay? Very, very specific instruction. It won't be too long. I will edit it, Dad, but you've got to fly off with the black cockatoos. You're busy. This was what death should be, a quiet choice, made joyfully in a sense of peace, because the body has been kindly used to help the Son of God along the way he goes to God. We thank the body then for all the service it's given us, but we're thankful too for the need is done to walk the world of limits and to reach the Christ in hidden forms and clearly seen in most lovely flashes. Now we can behold him without the blinders, in the light, and we have learnt to look upon again. We call it death, but it is liberty. It does not come in forms that seem to thrust down the pain on unwilling flesh, but as a gentle, welcome release. It is there. If there has been true healing, there can be in a form in which death comes when it is time to rest, a while from labour, gladly done and gladly ended. Now we go in peace to the free air and the gentle climate, where it's not hard to see the gifts we gave were saved for us. For Christ is clearer now, his vision more sustained in us, his voice, the word of God, more certainly our own. This gentle passage to a higher prayer, a kind of forgiveness for the ways of the earth, can only be received with thankfulness. Thanks, Dad.
Was anyone else coming up? Oh, that's everyone. Please join me in prayer. Our Father and Mother God, thank you for Graham's life here and the gifts he gave us walking with us for 91 years. We ask blessings for his wife Beverly, his daughters Adele and Karen, and his son Brenton. Also his granddaughters Sarah, Alex, Jade and Harmony, and his grandchildren Rafea, Grace, Aria and Jovan, as they go on through their lives without his presence here. May his memory be a guiding light along their path. May the difficulties fade and the blessings grow in their lives. Amen. Thank you, everyone. You're all warmly invited to make your way outside in your own time, to share in refreshments, and to continue the celebration of Graham's life. Thank you so much.
You can have a little dance if you want to. Sit down. There's some music coming, you can dance.
Well, it's alright, riding around in the breeze. Well, it's alright, if you live the life you please. Well, it's alright, doing the best you can. Well, it's alright, as long as you lend a hand. You can sit around and wait for the phone to ring, waiting for someone to tell you everything. Sit around and wonder what tomorrow will bring. Maybe a diamond ring. Well, it's alright, even if they say you're wrong. Well, it's alright, sometimes you gotta be strong. Well, it's alright, as long as you got someone to lay. Well, it's alright, every day is Judgment Day. Maybe somewhere down the road away, you'll think of me and wonder where I am these days. Maybe somewhere down the road when somebody plays Purple Haze. Well, it's alright, even when push comes to shove. Well, it's alright, if you got someone to love. Well, it's alright, everything will work out fine. Well, it's alright, we're going to the end of the line. Don't have to be ashamed of the car I drive. I'm just glad to be here, happy to be alive. And it don't matter if you're by my side.